Awakening Wonders, thanks for joining me today for Stay Free with Russell Brand. We are live, lost in a whirlwind, 96 Bonnie and Clyde, me and my girlfriend Dave. How's it going? You alright, mate?
Doing good.
It's nice to see you. It's nice to see you too, Jake.
Good to be here.
Good to see you both. Hey, okay, now look, there's quite a lot to deal with, but when is there not these days? I mean, we're going to start by talking about the Ukrainian peace deal and whether or not this Ukrainian peace deal. I mean, I actually am uncertain about what to even take seriously in reality in the most general way. Trump says only a few sticking points remain in Ukraine-Russia peace talks as Kyiv reportedly backs framework. But even something like a peace deal in a long-ranging conflict seems secondary to a fractured and fragmented media space where every day brings new, baffling and confusing stories, with most people reaching now into esotericism or conspiracy to try to unpack and understand a world that is... Man, it's difficult to understand these days. So we'll be covering that in a little bit. But before that, I've got a few things to tell you. One, Turning Point. I'm going to go to Turning Point on the 18th of December. Let me know, guys, in the comments and chat what you think about that. Do you think it's the right thing to do? How do you feel about it? Again, it's another one of those stories where if you only pay attention to one particular stream of media, you would get a very particular impression of it, wouldn't you? Like, say, for example, you watched only Candace Owens. What would you think about Turning Point and participating in Turning Point? But then you see something like, I feel like I didn't even watch the clips. I try not to watch too much of this kind of stuff, to tell you the truth, so as I don't go insane. I don't know how you lot cope with it, to be honest. And I saw, like, Erica Kirk addressing the idea that some people said she was having an affair with J.D. Vance, right? And that's the kind of thing, you know. And she just said, well, this is ridiculous. She sort of saw it as absurd. But I'll tell you what's, you know, and plainly it is absurd. Plainly absurd. But what is so difficult these days is that we're living in such a fluxy, fluctuating plastic and mobile space that I just find it hard to, outside of Christ, to know what to believe in. And indeed, one of the few things that gives me comfort, and let me know in the comments and chat if you agree with this, wherever you're watching us, if you're watching us on Rumble or Rumble Premium, and I hope you are, because if you subscribe to Rumble Premium, it benefits me financially, and you, let's put you first for a moment, you get additional content from Steve Crowder, you get content from Glenn Greenwald, from all of like Rumble's premium creators, and you get an ad-free experience over there. We'll be on for a while, and what I want to know from you lot is, where are you drawing your faith and your trust from now? What is it you can rely on? Because I suppose I've started to see, I'm reading David Icke's new book, and you know, David Icke is of course a divisive figure, but think about the number of times he's been right about stuff and ahead of it. What I get from reading him is like that all of the cultural and political conversations that we have are kind of, you know, fleas on a dog's back, or yet another metaphor. You think you're in control of your life, but you don't control your cardiology, your digestive system. You barely control your respiration. I mean, you can voluntarily inhale and exhale, but you don't know what your pulmonary artery's doing right now, do you? And don't you think that the anatomy is the perfect metaphor for how easy it would be to disassociate from the deeper and abiding reality? I.e., isn't it miraculous that science can perform surgery on, for example, my heart's son? But isn't it yet more miraculous that hearts exist at all? Let me know what you think about that in the comments and the chat. Over the course of the show, we're going to be talking about I went and saw that film Wicked. I've got daughters. I've got a 7-year-old and a 9-year-old daughter. So I went and saw that film Wicked, and it's spurred a lot of thoughts in me. Let me know if you've seen that movie, and see if you can get on this. Kids that are watching Wicked these days, if they watch Wizard of Oz at all, they'll see it from the perspective of already being told that Elphaba is the goodie, and that Dorothy killing Elphaba was a kind of inadvertent murder of a good person. It's so interesting to live in a revisionist time. Again, what's true? What's the source? Is Wizard of Oz the source, or is Wicked the source? Is independent media the source, or is the prestigious New York Times the source? And aren't you appraised yet of the obvious fact that none of these places, sources or resources, are 100% reliable, or probably even 50% reliable? You're right there, Massey. Where are you? In Canada still?
Yeah, still in Canada, mate. Go back to England on Saturday.
Good. Well, I hope that all works out for you. Joe, I can see where you are, although I was astonished. I feel like I saw out a shot that you were possibly smoking, which I know is...
No, definitely not.
I can see smoke coming, rising.
Might be a fire.
Could be a fire. Hong Kong is ablaze. Joe's apartment is ablaze. Certainly won't be smoking there, because that, I tell you now, is not allowed. Okay, let's have a quick look at, I mean, do we care about the Ukraine thing? I mean, I'm not saying, of course we care. People are dying in wars and stuff. But I mean, it's like you update yourself on Ukraine versus Russia. 10 minutes later, there never was a war in Ukraine, Russia. It's George Soros just making a bunch of money. Oh, BlackRock were invested in a digital new democracy. Zelensky was an actor. Did you see that blob of cocaine falling out of his nose? I mean, like, it's just, in a way, did you see that blob of cocaine falling out of Zelensky's nose?
No.
I bet Joe saw it. Did you see it, Joe?
I haven't seen that, no.
Well, it might not. I mean, he was doing like one of his speeches, and he was sort of like shooting it on quite a low. Looked like he was shooting on an iPad from sort of like down at this kind of angle, and something fell out of his nose. Now, it might not have been cocaine, but people already a little bit think that Zelensky is getting his charge from the coca leaf, the humble coca leaf.
I want to doubt it.
And did you know that the Zelensky story, our friend Gavin DeBecker, I saw Gavin DeBecker describing this on Joe Rogan, that Zelensky we all know he was a comedian and an actor, but did you know that he was a comedian in the show? And in the show, a comedian is a sort of stalking horse candidate in a Ukrainian election and then wins the election. And then the name of the fictional party in this actual TV show was something like The People's Power. And then while still doing the show, Zelensky registered the name of the party, as did the acolytes around Zelensky, the People's Party or whatever. They registered that name. Then a year after that, backed by an oligarchical Ukrainian figure, he ran for actual president, and what do you know? Became president. So again, all of my points today are, what is your locus of truth and reality? We've said many times on this show before, if you don't have like local relationships, for rectal use only. Who's put that on my pen? Is that Rob Zombie?
That's a Rob special.
It is. For rectal use, who would put, what kind of sick recovering meth addict would put for rectal use only?
Well, the fact that he went and ordered a whole roll of them, he got them in a bulk.
He bought bulk. He's like thinking that's not a one-off joke. He thinks that's going to...
That's going everywhere. Yeah. For sure.
I hope to God he's put one on his own penis. That's my only hope. Okay, let's cover this Ukraine peace deal and see if we ourselves are capable, with the access to information we have and our awareness, hopefully, of our biases, picking our way through this madness. With awareness of the irony that this statement should elicit. Here's Fox News reporting on it.
All right, so we are getting an update on the push for peace in Ukraine. A U.S. official is now telling Fox that the Ukrainian side has agreed to a peace deal with some minor details still set to be sorted out. Meanwhile, Army Secretary Dan Driscoll met with Russian officials in Abu Dhabi. Driscoll's office saying, quote, late Monday and throughout Tuesday, Secretary Driscoll and team have been in discussions with the Russian delegation to achieve a lasting peace deal in Ukraine. The talks are going well, and we remain optimistic.
Very yeah. I mean, with the language with that, if it is true and the Ukrainians go forward with it and you throw it back into Putin's lap, what does he do?
Yep.
Right? Does he accept it, or if he rejects it, then what?
Who cares what that bloke in the jacket felt? Well, you throw that back into Putin's lap. What if his trousers are bunched up and it looks like he's got a hard-on under there? What then? And then Putin is embarrassed about that, so he overreacts. Like, who cares about the conjecture of these lunatics? Let me know what you think about that in the comments, would you? Here's Trump's post on Truth Social. Over the past week, my team has made tremendous progress with respect to ending the war between Russia and Ukraine. A war that would never have started if I were president. Last month, 25,000 soldiers died. Horrible, brutal, terrible facts of war. The original 28-point peace plan, which was drafted by the United States, has been fine-tuned with additional input from both sides, and there are only a few remaining points of disagreement. In the hopes of finalising this peace plan, I have directed my special envoy, Steve Witkoff, to meet with President Putin in Moscow, and at the same time, Secretary of the Army, Dan Driscoll. I mean, like, I suppose what stares us in the face every time we analyze to the degree we do this type of content is that media is altered forever. Trump was the pioneer of this initially on Twitter, like recognizing that he can directly access his audience and he can tell you in not granular detail but in broad strokes, oh right, so Dan Driscoll's going to be meeting with the Ukrainians. I'll be briefed on all progress made along with VP JD, Secretary of State Marco Rubio, Secretary of War Pete Hegseth, White House Chief of Staff Susie Wiles. I look forward to hopefully meeting with Zelensky and Putin soon, but only when the deal to end this war is final or in its final stages. Thank you for your attention to this very important matter. I love the way he does that sign off. I'll start doing it. And let's all hope that peace can be accomplished as soon as possible. Okay, so it seems to me like from the broadest and most superficial perspective, because that's the only one I can offer you, because I'm deep in trying to discover Christ in myself in my own limited and broken way, that what Trump is doing is sort of riding the cascading waves of domestic turmoil by occasionally brokering what seem to be seismic peace deals, like the one in the Middle East. Did that hold? Or like this one? Does that seem what it's like to you guys? How do you feel right now about that way that the ICE stuff is unfolding? Have you watched any of Mamdani doing press, man? Like, the world is a truculent and crazy place right now. I mean, he's both likable and extraordinary. Sam Harris, the atheist Buddhist, says that Trump deserves the Nobel Prize for the return of the Israeli hostages taken in October 2023. Let's have a look at Sam Harris's perspective.
I think he deserves a Nobel Peace Prize for having brought the hostages back. I have no problem.
Who gives a fuck about the Nobel Peace Prize? It's a made-up thing. Who gives a fuck anymore about things like the Nobel Peace Prize? You know, it's like made up. You know, I don't know, maybe it's prestigious, but can you get it up anymore for anything like, I won a Grammy, I got a Nobel Peace Prize, I got a bonnet? It's like getting excited about finding a dinosaur in your Cheerios. Who cares? Like, the Nobel Peace Prize was set up by the Nobel family after they got some bad blowback, forgive the pun, for their invention and source of their wealth and revenue, dynamite. Nobel are not in the peace business, they're in the business of blowing shit up. And when they needed to get some good PR, I was like, God, would it be too audacious and brazenly hypocritical for us to sort of start a peace prize thing? Oh no, people would surely spot that. No, people would hanker after it. People would go, wouldn't it be amazing to get a peace prize? We have a ceremony, red velvet chairs, people love that shit. No, they're not idiots, are they? They're not morons so divorced from divine connection that they'll buy into any bauble you stick in front of them. I bet you if right now someone could tap me on the shoulder and go, do you know what, Russell, this is really weird because I did hear that they were talking about you for a Nobel Peace Prize, I'd go, I'd probably start crying. Like, I remember one time, like early on, my mate Martino, God rest his eternal soul, like when like Sarah Marshall come out or was coming out or something, like he goes, people are talking about you like as a nominee for a Best Supporting Actor Oscar. And I was like, yeah, the Oscars are a verifiable and good thing. Like, I remember just like being totally willing to get on board. Like, our willingness to participate in the illusion is an absolute requirement. We'll be talking about COVID and the pandemic period, by the way, a little later. Because it's very difficult if you've vaccinated all your kids to start going, whoa, I just hope that these studies that haven't been done to demonstrate that there's no link between vaccines and autism, I hope these undone studies haven't been undone because there is a link between vaccines and autism, because I don't want to go through that. I don't want to go through that pain. We are willing participants. We are tent pegs in the great canopy of their illusion, if you want to enter into that metaphor for me. Nevertheless, here's Trump saying that he doesn't like the cover of Time magazine, or at least the picture. Time magazine wrote a relatively good story about me, but the picture may be the worst of all time. Caps. They disappeared my hair, and then had something floating on top of my head that looked like a floating crown, but an extremely small one. Really weird. I never like taking pictures from underneath angles, but this is a super bad picture and deserves to be called out. What are they doing and why? I'm sort of always, like with Trump, like caught between how can he care? How can the person that's actually nominally, and at least on the surface, as far as we know, the most powerful person in the whole world, maybe given the maneuvering in the Supreme Court, the most powerful president in history, how can he care, as he did at the UN when he gave that talk, about the tiles that they used and how he would have used better tiles if they'd have awarded his construction company the contract? How can he care about Time magazine thing? Like, but in a way, on the other hand, it makes me sort of like him, because I remember how it felt when The Guardian, when I in the UK, and I recognise my pipsqueak fame compared to this sort of mega historical figure, whether you like him or not, you'd have to agree that he's sort of a contemporarily incomparable figure. See, I said no voting. I said don't vote, and Joe, me and you wouldn't have known each other then, nor me and you, Massey. But we're all from sort of similar backgrounds, by which I mean, sort of, I'm assuming, you know, but somewhere between working class and lower middle class backgrounds, essentially where you're not vested in the system because for economic and social reasons. And I said at that point, no one votes that I know, because they all know it's total bollocks. And it really, really resonated, and it got a lot of heat and a lot of attention, and it was like this big rush of fame outside of celebrity fame. It was a different sort of, it had a different timbre, different quality to it. The newspaper that I would have imagined to be most sympathetic to an autodidactic working class person espousing off the cuff on politics would be the apparently left-wing Guardian. But when I did a bunch of interviews around it, the one that was most derisory, condemnatory, critical, haughty and supercilious were The Guardian. They were like sneering, contemptuous, even though I went with the journalist to like a soup kitchen and did like some sort of, you know, he goes, oh, you know, you care about people, do you? Well, why don't you come to this soup kitchen and where I do stuff? And I'm like, yeah, cool, man. Oh, yeah, I do. I'm like, I believe in this stuff, you know. I'll own it. I'm self-interested. I'm a narcissist. I'm a performer, all that shit. But there's another track. That's not all I am. I really care. I love Jesus. And even before I knew Jesus, it was all there. The love of God, the love of service. I was trying my best. I'm trying my best. Anyway, like when they wrote that article, like they photographed me with like sort of like as if I was like this. And this is why we're very careful with our framing. Like they sort of photographed me like that. So like I was like that was the front cover of the Guardian magazine. And when you photograph someone with space above their head, what you're saying is you're diminishing that person. That's what they do. That is called semiotics. That's the language of images. Images have certain connotations. Even something innocuous that you look at in your sightline is probably got a bunch of connotations to you. Anyway, like the whole article was very sort of snidey, and like it started to really fuel this hatred in me of like the intelligentsia and the professional media class. So I get what he's saying, but I'm just some peripheral, marginal cultural figure. He's the president of the United States of America. So on one hand, I think it's sort of ridiculous, but on the other hand, I think he's like really identifiable and recognizable. I just can't get my head around it. I can't get my head around what he means or what he represents, even though I read a bunch of content that say he's owned in the same way that you would know that Biden or Harris is owned. He's owned, or he's malleable and all that kind of stuff. Let me know what you think in the comments and chat. Let me know where you are on your personal journey of awakening, and let me know when you think the Ukraine ceasefire will happen. And you can use Polymarket. My word, we must have done some kind of deal with these, because it's something I have to talk about every 15 seconds. I won't be surprised if I have to incorporate Polymarket into my children's bedtime stories at this rate. Like Polymarket when I'm feeding my dog. I have to go, yeah, Bear, here's a bone. Here, do you want to have a bet on Polymarkets whether pig bones better than beef bones? About every 25 seconds. The US agrees to, like, anyway, like Polymarket, what Polymarket is you know, you can gamble on anything. Now, I'm a drug addict and an alcoholic, and one of the few addictions I've never had is gambling, and so be really careful. If you've got addiction issues, watch that shit, but if you don't, go crazy, man. This seems to be a good thing, and like what I suppose they're good at doing is mapping and tracking data points and compiling information in a way that's somewhat reliable. So you could probably use this if you know, just try not to gamble, guys, because I don't know that I mean, game's a chance, vice, it's not good. Have you ever had the gambling addictions, Dave?
No, but I have a propensity to it, so I just don't gamble really. Yeah,
I bet Joe could get right smashed up on gambling, couldn't you, mate?
Yeah, I've got quite into it for a little while, betting on the horses and that when I was drinking, but I didn't like losing money, so I found it easy to knock it on the head.
That's the good thing. If you are a drug addict, in the end, you'll sort of say, I need this money for the drugs. I can't
Exactly
afford to give this away. But if you look at our beloved Dave now, his cheek is full of them kind of nicotine things for people in the South. And I'm mind betting you dollars to donuts that in his hand are 3 of them gambling chips.
Yeah.
That's Dave's tell. That's how we know Dave's crazy.
I've been gambling before, and then I have the thought, well, I got to win that back. I got to go take out more money. And, it could go bad.
Someone explained to me the other day, my mate, he's a former Marine, and you better know I love the military, mate. Oh God, I love a special ops person, me. I'm gay for special ops, which is a shame because they hate that. And criminals. Like, it used to be criminals when I was younger. I've migrated a little bit over to the old special ops. Anyway, there's this Marine that I do jiu-jitsu with. It's kind of jiu-jitsu. We're naked. We're covered in tallow. It was all tallow. It's actual jiu-jitsu. Anyway, he says there ain't no point in hedge funds or none of that crap. He goes, the S&P index, am I saying that right, Dave? Like the main index, the American top 500 companies. Just invest in that index. Look, here's the facts. The only people that have ever beaten that index over the last 30 or 50 years or something like that is Warren Buffett and an inaccessible hedge fund called something like, I don't know, Helio or something. I don't know, like it's something that you can't get into anyway. So, maybe the thing is with gambling, unless you're Henry Sugar, who's a Roald Dahl character, or or Biff. Remember Biff? No one seems to care about Biff. Am I the only one who cares about Biff?
Cool.
Biff.
Cool. Yeah,
Hello, McFly.
Back to the Future.
Yeah, Back to the Future. Back to the Future too. McFly. I love Biff, and even his goons. I love those guys. Anyway, when Biff gets that almanac, that's it. But anyway, use Polymarket. This is an advert in which I'm doing the opposite of an advert. Go to polymarket.com to trade on the outcomes of live events from politics, pop culture, sports, and more. Get on it. Get on it, you guys. Okay, if you're watching us on YouTube, you adorable people, get off it and click the link in the description. Come over to Rumble and Rumble Premium. Let us know what you think about this. Trump might be firing Kash Patel, a man with whom I briefly shared a booth at the Army versus Navy football game that I briefly attended in Jake's boots. I went there to the Army-Navy football game in Maryland. It was cold that day. It was pretty good. I'd love to go again. I want to go, like Joe's always telling me, get into American sports. Get into some. Jake's always given me the opportunity to learn more about baseball. Let's get into it. Anyway, I was there, and briefly, Kash Patel was in that room. Kash Patel, a few other important people from the government. And now it looks like, Kash Patel could be on his way out. Do you think it's going to happen? Let me know what you think in the comments.
Breaking news. MS Now has just learned that FBI Director Kash Patel may be out of a job in the coming months. 3 people with knowledge of the situation say President Trump and his top aides have grown tired of Patel and the unflattering headlines he's been generating recently, including using a government jet to visit his girlfriend and enlisting a SWAT team as her